One of the many exciting things about joining Liv was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Liv Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the Crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Puig birdie eight, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
It might be the summer, but today we take you back to college. Hello and welcome to College Football Today's Summer Special. He is the mastermind of the college football pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. We are going to get you set for the 2024 college football campaign, a season, Joe, that will look very different than anything we have ever seen in the history of college football. Realigned conferences, an expanded 12-team college football playoff, and so many changes to keep you up to date and up to speed with as we get ready for 2024. A wise man once told me this is what it's all about.
Oh, this is what it's all about. A wide open field. We have a handful, Ben, of about 12 to 15 teams that potentially can win a national championship. But let's not forget the first season without Nick Saban coaching Alabama. It's been about, 30, 40 seasons without the mad scientist at the helm. We'll see how it plays out.
A new reign in Tuscaloosa. Kalen DeBoer makes the trip from Seattle, where he led Washington to a national championship game, and now will take over in Alabama. Plenty of changes, not just from a personnel and player movement perspective in this NIL and transfer portal era, but also with the conferences and the leagues around the country. This week, Joe, July 1st, was the official start of conference realignment. Over the past 2 to 3 off seasons, you have seen the updates. First, it was Oklahoma and Texas departing the Big 12 as the standard bearers in that conference to join the SEC. Then it was USC and UCLA leaving the West Coast and the Pac-12 to join the Big 10, followed by the dissolution of the Pac-12. The once great Conference of Champions is no more, as Oregon and Washington join the Big 10 as well. And, of course, we have the 4 corner schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah entering the Big 12. And, the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, can't really bear that name anymore, as Cal and Stanford join the ACC, 2 teams from the Pacific Coast, and SMU in the heart of the Lone Star State in Dallas. All of that, Joe, officially undertaking this week on July 1st. And, of course, it is a new landscape then in college sports, but specifically led by college football. No longer the Power 5, it's really the Power 4 with the Big 2, the Big 10, and the SEC calling all the shots.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this season plays out. You see some of the front runners as well, Texas and Oregon, newcomers in their respective divisions that are front runners to win the national championship. championship game, but I'll say this, Ben. The games that we're going to see in the first 3 weeks of the regular season are dynamic. We have Georgia and Clemson squaring off. We see Texas going to Michigan in week number 2, Ohio State to Oregon. Those are games potentially we wouldn't have seen for maybe 10, 15 years. We're going to see it in the first month of the regular season, and this is what it's all about, baby. Explosiveness throughout the regular season.
And that is the optimistic outlook of how good the conference games are going to be all year long. Conference slates are going to be gauntlet, but the competition is going to be at the nth degree. And as we look around the country and you see those newcomers to the Big Ten and you see the 2 new schools in the SEC, how the ACC has reformatted its league and the Big 12 stacked from top to bottom now with 16 schools, it also has an impact from the odds perspective, because it is a new era. You are not going to just be able to run through your conference slate as Georgia and Michigan and Alabama and Ohio State have in years past. There are no longer divisions in both the Southeastern Conference and in the Big Ten. We'll dive into all of the odds that you need to know. But it's not just conference realignment, Joe, but the path to a college football playoff. 10 years of the 4-team format of the CFP is now a thing of recent history. It is a 12-team expanded field in the college football playoff entering the 2024 college football campaign. And here is the logistics of how it works. 5 highest-ranked conference champions get an automatic berth into the field of 12, which leaves 7 at-large bids. Now we have more college football playoff games. We will have an opening round, seeds 5 through 12. We'll have on-campus home CFP games in the middle of December to start the CFP, followed by the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and, of course, a national championship game way later in 2025 on Monday, January 20th. Joe, there is a lot to adapt to. There is a lot to get used to this year in college football, but with change comes excitement. That's the 12-team era of the college football playoff.
I can't wait. I tell you, I can't wait for the season to kick off on August 24th. That's what it's all about. But to your point, Ben, in terms of the odds perspective as well, think about the past couple of seasons. We saw TCU make the national championship game as a 200-to-1 shot. You're not going to see that this year.
Right.
A lot of watered down odds because the books don't want to really expose risk. They want to mitigate that risk. So you're seeing a lot of teams, 15, 20 teams under 80-to-1. And I think that's the change that we'll see. Teams like Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, and Lane Kiffin have a shot. We see other teams as well. Newcomers in the league. Utah, a front runner for the Big 12. Can they maintain the success from the start of the season to the end of the regular season? We saw 4 teams last year struggle with conference realignment. That'll open the door for potentially a dark horse as well.
Lisi, I think it's one of the best points that you have brought up all off season long. Just from the handicapping and betting perspective, you need to know where the liabilities are. And as we show you the national championship odds and the 10 best prices to win the college football playoff national title this year, you'll notice a consistent theme. 9 of the 10 best prices hail from 2 conferences. That's the Big Ten and the SEC, because Oregon is now a Big Ten school. Texas is now an SEC school. The only team in the top 10 that is not in one of those 2 conferences is not in any league, and that's Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, a 22-to-1 number. So in the 4-team format of the college football playoff era the past decade, we never saw a team with multiple losses make the 4-team college football playoff field. Now with 12 spots available, we are going to see multiple teams, Joe, with multiple losses. 2, maybe even 3 get into the college football playoff.
And think about last year. We saw Georgia, right? I mean, they ran the gauntlet in terms of the regular season. They won their 11 FBS games by an average margin of victory, Ben, of 22.2 points per game, lose to Alabama in the SEC championship, and they're on the outside looking in. Right. Florida State, 13-0. They lose Jordan Travis. They're out. This year, they both be in. So I think that's, from the odds perspective, how you have to see it. Teams like Penn State have a shot. Teams like Ole Miss, like I mentioned, and some others. So which team could step up in the regular season? And if they do, in fact, lose a regular season early game, that does not necessarily mean they're out of the mix.
Georgia has lost 2 games in the last 3 college football campaigns, both in the SEC championship, in both both to Alabama. We got so angry, and rightfully so, about Florida State being left out of the college football playoff, we almost forgot about UGA in this discussion. FSU, who is the favorite to win the ACC, the Seminoles now have a great opportunity to see the college football playoff field because in the final year of a 4-team format of the CFP, there were so many qualified candidates, so many strong teams with strong resumes, it almost hearkened us to have expansion the very next year. Florida State was the 15th Power 5 conference champion who was undefeated through that conference title game in the decade-long history of the college football playoff era with 4 teams, the only of those 15 undefeated Power 5 conference champs to be left out of the CFP. Georgia came up short in its quest for 3 consecutive national championships last year, but Lisi the Bulldogs will enter 2024 with the shortest price at 3-1, followed by Ohio State at plus 430. The Buckeyes saw the maize and blue Michigan win a national championship last year, their most bitter rivals, and said never again. All of the changes this offseason in Columbus, Ohio State should certainly be in the running this season.
Pressure's on Ryan Day. No excuse. Quinshawn Junkins comes over, Will Howard as well, and they have 7 starters back on that defense, and Carson Beck comes back for the Georgia Bulldogs, the front runner for the potential Heisman Trophy. Should be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Part of the new faces and names within the Big Ten, within Ohio State's football program, and of course, a conference that looks very different as well. A Big Ten breakdown on the other side of the break here on CFT Summer Special.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the 3 teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream Team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those 2 teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. But that's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to our College Football Today Summer Special. He's Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Things look very different this year ahead in college football in 2024. A reimagined college football playoff with an expanded field of 12 and maybe most notably conference realignment in a large way. We start with one of the big 2 of the new Power 4. That would be the Big Ten Conference. There are some familiar programs, but of course the addition of the 4 West Coast newcomers in USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. But Joe, we start our conversation by looking at those conference championship odds. Ohio State plus 140. The Buckeyes will enter this season as the favorites to win the Big Ten, followed by Oregon at plus 210, then Penn State at plus 550, and the 3-time Big Ten champions in the last 3 college football seasons and the reigning national title winners, that would be the Maize and Blue, the Michigan Wolverines, out of Ann Arbor at plus 650. Changes in the Big Ten. Sweeping changes in Ann Arbor this offseason after getting back to the mountaintop for the first time since 1997. Jim Harbaugh, the head coach, no longer there. He's in the National Football League coaching the Chargers. J.J. McCarthy, the winningest quarterback in the last 50 years in CFP, he's in the NFL as well with the Minnesota Vikings. Blake Corum, who has been a certified touchdown scorer each and every week, he's also in the NFL. All to say, so many changes for the Wolverines this year, and we see that reflected in their prices, no longer the favorites to win the Big Ten.
It's got a lot of pressure on Sharon Moore. Now, in his 2 interim starts, he did step up. He got the victories over Penn State and Maryland, respectively. In both of those games, they rushed the rock for 84 attempts in both of those ball games, grounded it out, and relied on the defense. Didn't really ask a lot out of J.J. McCarthy. Last year, Michigan, Ben, averaged 165 rushing yards per game. Why is that important? Because the previous 2 seasons, they were over 200. So they relied on the rushing attack the previous 2 seasons much more than they did last year, and they progressed under J.J. McCarthy. Only 2 starters come back, but Donovan Edwards and that offensive line are there. They do square off against Texas in terms of week number 2. They're already 3.5-point dogs in that matchup. They do have a 22-game home winning streak, so it's not going to be easy for Texas. I think this team right now, on paper, potentially 9-3, 10-2, but that might be enough to get them into the college football playoff.
And that's a great point. 9.5 is the win total for the Michigan Wolverines, who were undefeated a year ago in their conquest of a national championship. But even if they finish 9-3, given the schedule, given where the Big Ten stands as a conference as a whole, it does not eliminate the Wolverines from college football playoff contention. The new quarterback battle this summer in Ann Arbor, the veteran Jack Tuttle, who came over from Indiana a few seasons ago, has Big Ten experience, and Alex Orji as well, more of an athletic-style quarterback who can run the rock like Donovan Edwards. And the good thing for Michigan, Sharon Moore, the OC, the offensive line coach, that consistency will remain. Michigan had 13 players drafted in the 2024 NFL Draft. Anytime that happens, of course, there will be a ton of turnover. So the Wolverines, the reigning national champs, still one of the 10 best prices to win the national title this season. Ohio State saw their most bitter rival win a national title and said to themselves, we are never going to let that happen ever again, especially in the microcosm, Joe, that was last year, the sign-stealing scandal with Connor Stallions in Ann Arbor, and a lot of the speculation around the rivalry and what led to that information even being leaked. A lot of pressure on Ryan Day entering 2024 in Columbus. He's got a new offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly. He's got a new quarterback, the transfer from Kansas State, Will Howard. He's got a new shiny running back in the backfield with Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. And so much wide receiver talent returns, along with so much talent on the defensive side of the football. In the SEC Freshman of the Year from Alabama, Caleb Downs. All to say, Ohio State is fully in, and it's national championship or bust.
No excuses this year. Everything is in place for Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes to not just make the college football playoff and win a Big Ten championship, but to win it all. They are one of the front runners. Can they gel as an offensive unit? That remains to be seen. When you have so many moving parts, Will Howard, you have Quinshon Judkins, you have Chip Kelly, can it meld in just one season? Because, again, the pressure's there for Ryan Day. He failed to step up a couple of years ago against Georgia in the college football playoff game, did not make second-half adjustments. And when you look at Will Howard as well, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, only 61% completion percentage, not as prolific as C.J. Stroud a couple years ago. We have to see how this plays out. The pressure is on, and they square off in Eugene week number 2. I still give the inside edge, though, Ben, to Oregon in terms of the big picture, but there's no doubt that Ohio State's going to make the playoff.
4 teams, only 4 around the country in college football have a win total of 10.5. Only Ohio State and Georgia have juice on the over. The Buckeyes, the best number, minus minus 150 to the over of 10 and a hook. Penn State is thankful for conference realignment. Why? Because divisions are done in the Big Ten. No longer the East versus the West, and for the Nittany Lions, no longer having to look up at the top of the East Division and see Ohio State and Michigan. Because the last 2 regular seasons, Penn State against everybody not named Ohio State and Michigan, a perfect 20-0. Against the Buckeyes and the Wolverines, 0-4. The win total 9.5 for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley this year, Joe. And the over has the heavy juice. What is your expectation for Penn State this season?
I think they could be a 9-win football team, but in their 3 losses last year to Michigan, Ohio State, and Ole Miss, Drew Aller under 50% completion percentage. How can I buy into Penn State big picture if their quarterback is not efficient? That's a cause of concern. So right now, I think they're 9-3 overall. If Drew Aller starts fast, maybe I change my assessment, but the pressure's on right now in Happy Valley.
Pressure is highly on Drew Aller, the prince that was promised at the quarterback spot, who had a disappointing first year as the starter in State College. But the good news for Penn State, they only play Ohio State. They don't have Michigan. Road trips to USC and Camp Randall to take on Wisconsin. But you see the minus 145 price for the Nittany Lions to reach the college football playoff. That is the expectation. That is what they will be judged by in terms of their level of success in 2024. Throughout the rest of the Big Ten on the other side of the break, including the West Coast newcomers, and we look at the top with the Oregon Ducks in their first year in the Big Ten, the second best price to take home a conference championship at plus 210, only behind the Buckeyes of Ohio State. What will Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks and the rest of the Pac-12 newcomers bring to the Big Ten this year? Find out next.
The WNBA is a unique market, right? It moves a little bit different. You take a bet, a limit play, even if the limit is 2 dimes on the side, you don't go from 11.5 to 12. You know what I mean? You got to go. Got to go. Because if they bet you the second number, then you go, oh boy, now we have a decision that we really didn't think we got a big decision. Books love decisions.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Like cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. That's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
A Big Ten breakdown in the new look conference this upcoming college football season in 2024. It's a new look because we have 4 teams from the former Pac-12 making the trip from the West Coast to take on the Big Ten. Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington, now newcomers into the Big Ten Conference. And Joe, let's start with those Ducks, a team that was favored to win the Pac-12 a season ago, that was a double-digit favorite in the final ever Pac-12 football championship game, came up short against Washington, saw the Huskies get to a national title. We'll talk about what is different this year for UW in just a moment. But Oregon's first year in the Big Ten sees the Ducks have the second best price to take home a conference title at plus 210, only behind the favorites, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Are those expectations fair? And maybe better yet, justified for the Ducks in their first season in the Big Ten?
I think they are. The 2 games that they lost last year were to the Pac-12 champion and national champion runner-up Washington Huskies. They went toe-to-toe with Michael Penix. This is a team in Dan Lanning and the Ducks that can run it. They average 184 rushing yards per game, could stop the run, only allowed 102 rushing yards to opposing offenses. He's built it from the inside out, and they get one of the most prolific quarterbacks in college football, Dylan Gabriel, that transfers over from Oklahoma, 30 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's a mobile quarterback, and we saw the progression with Bo Nix over the past couple of seasons. Last year, Bo Nix, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 78% completion percentage. Even if you get 85% of that type of productivity, they're going to win games. It comes down to that second week of the regular season, but it's in Eugene. I love what Dan Lanning's done. I think they're going to be there in the end.
The Ducks have the third best price to reach the college football playoff at minus 250, only behind Georgia and Ohio State. Oregon needs to be a college football playoff team in this 12-team format. Again, that's what the odds makers are saying. There was some speculation after the shocking retirement of Nick Saban that maybe Dan Lanning would leave Eugene, go to Tuscaloosa. He did not. His offensive coordinator, Will Stein, remains there inside Autzen Stadium as well. The former Pac-12 head coach that made the trip to Tuscaloosa, Washington's Kalen DeBoer. After leading the Huskies to a national championship game appearance, he's now the new head man in Alabama. We'll focus on the SEC in our next segment. So in his place, Jedd Fisch leaves Arizona, goes up to Seattle. National championship runner-up a season ago, Joe, but the Huskies just a win total of 7.5 this season.
Yeah, I think they're up against it, Ben. Schedule's not going to be easy. Will Rogers, the quarterback from Mississippi State, transfers over, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but struggled with consistency, only 59% completion percentage in big matchups, failed to step up in terms of big, throwing for over 200 yards or 300 yards per game. And again, it's a new offensive scheme, new defensive scheme, only 2 starters coming back as a whole. That's a lot of pressure on Jedd Fisch in year number 1. I think they struggled to get 5 wins this season.
Think about all the players you know from Washington last year that are now in the National Football League. Michael Penix Jr., Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, the list goes on and on. So UCLA and USC, long shot odds for the Bruins, 170-1 to win the Big Ten in their first year. New head coach, but former UCLA player in Deshaun Foster after Chip Kelly makes the trip to Columbus. If Kevin Walsh was here, he would tell us how Lincoln Riley and USC are about to take the Big Ten by storm. What say you?
Well, I think Lincoln Riley, again, the tempered expectations, 7.5. They're 28-1 to just win the Big Ten. When's the last time we saw that in regards to USC being front runners with Caleb Williams? Miller Moss stepped up in the playoff bowl win over Louisville, 372 yards, 6 touchdowns. If he could get that type of production this season, they're going to at least win 8 games. And DeAnton Lynn comes over, new defensive coordinator. If that defense could just get a little bit better, keep them in matchups, they have the opportunity to potentially win and outscore 9 opponents. 9 wins isn't out of the realm of possibility.
The best move Lincoln Riley made this offseason, firing Alex Grinch as the defensive coordinator. D'Anton Lynn takes the trip cross town from Westwood with UCLA to downtown LA to join the USC staff as the DC. Crosstown rivalries continue even into the Big Ten. Quickly here, a team to keep an eye on in the Big Ten we haven't mentioned.
Well, I think you got to keep an eye out for Iowa. I mean, the offense couldn't get any worse than than it was last year. Tim Lester comes over, the new offensive coordinator, and their 4 losses, Ben, they were shut out 3 times and completed only 43% of their passes. If they get a little bit better quarterback production, they could win 9 or 10 football games.
Can Nebraska get to a bowl game for the first time in nearly a decade? And mark my words, your Rutgers Scarlet Knights are going to win 8 games this year over the win total of 6.5. That over has some plus money at the moment. From the Big Ten to the SEC, we go next live right here on College Football Today's Summer Special.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when there's this wind at this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Live Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the Crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Pooch birdie, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
From the Big Ten to the SEC. Now, there is only a Power 4 remaining in college football. The Big Ten, SEC, joined by the ACC and the Big 12 after the dissolution of the Pac-12. But there's really a Big 2 of the Power 4. We hit on the Big Ten, now to the Southeastern Conference, where it just means more college football programs. Oklahoma and Texas enter the SEC this year. The flag bearers, the standard bearers of the Big 12, the powerhouse programs now make the trip to the Southeastern Conference. But still at the top of the table, Joe, it's a familiar name. It's the Georgia Bulldogs. UGA booked as the favorites to win the SEC at plus 185. And despite winning 2 national championships in the last 3 years, Georgia has only won the SEC once in that 3-year span, falling short against Alabama in both 2021 and a season ago. Like in the Big Ten, Oregon, a newcomer, second best price. Texas, the newcomer to the SEC, second best number at plus 310.
It's going to be intriguing to see how Texas and Oklahoma handle the Big 12, the SEC schedule from the Big 12, because we saw Big 12 teams, Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF struggle with the week to week. And we saw Texas go into Tuscaloosa as a 6.5-point dog and get the victory. You could do it maybe 1 week. Can you do it for 12 or 13 weeks?
Yeah.
If they can, then Texas is going to be there. I think Texas does have a better shot shot than Oklahoma this year. Quinn Ewers comes back. But again, we're going to see these games play out. Georgia travels to Texas in early October, and we see Georgia and Alabama squaring off in late September. So this really will dictate how the SEC championship plays out this year.
You look at the SEC conference schedules now for the 16-member institutions of this league, and I would not wish that on even my own worst enemy. Some have it more favorable. For instance, the Longhorns' first year in the SEC, in comparison, not as bad as their Red River rivals, Oklahoma. Oh boy, we'll talk about the Sooners in just a little bit. But let's start with a team normally we would see at the top. But right now, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the fourth best price to win the SEC title at plus 950. With all of the changes just in the overall landscape, expanded CFP, conference realignment, one of the biggest changes is no more Nick Saban, retiring this past offseason after 17 years at the helm in Tuscaloosa. Taking over is Kalen DeBoer. And it's a win total that many Crimson Tide faithful are not used to seeing. 9.5 in the under has the juice. What can we expect from Kalen DeBoer and his Tide program in his opening year in Tuscaloosa?
I think quarterback efficiency. That's the one thing that he coached up Michael Penix and leading that team to a national championship appearance. They're going to spread it and throw it, but, Alabama's up against it. They potentially lose their best offensive weapon in regards to Isaiah Bond. Yeah. Now with the Texas Longhorns, you lose your lockdown corner, Caleb Downs, to Ohio State. And again, Kalen DeBoer is a great coach, coached up Fresno State and Washington, but this is like coaching in the tri-state New York area. The pressure and expectations are there from year one. 9-3 isn't acceptable in Tuscaloosa, so we'll see how this plays out. But again, I think the pressure is on Jalen Milroe, and the offensive line is a cause of concern. 43, 44 sacks allowed, one of the worst in Alabama over the past 5 seasons. They need to shore that up to have success.
It might have been the thing that sent Nick Saban to retirement. He was so mad about the O-line play a year ago, and we saw it on full display in the Rose Bowl against Michigan. 9-3 still might keep Alabama in consideration for the college football playoff. But, boy, they haven't won less than double-digit games in a long time. You'd have to go all the way back to Nick Saban's debut year in Tuscaloosa. That was 2007. Alabama fans that are a little bit younger might not remember this, but in the 10 years before Nick Saban, 4 years with a losing record. I don't think it's going to be that bad. Jalen Milroe still there in Tuscaloosa. Should be great under Kalen DeBoer, but just slightly reset those expectations. So we looked at the Georgia Bulldogs with the best price to win the SEC. Again, 2 teams have a win total of 10.5 nationally, where the over has the juice. Ohio State out of the Big Ten, the Bulldogs out of the SEC. Joe, in the last 3 seasons, Georgia has lost 2 games, both in the SEC championship against Alabama. That is a 42-2 record with 2 national championships and a 60-point blowout victory in the Orange Bowl to boot last December. What do you think Georgia is in store for here in 2024?
A dynamic season. I think 11 wins or bust. I think they have potentially the best quarterback, at least returning in the SEC, that being Carson Beck, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 5 games last year. Ben, he threw for over 300 yards. They won those 5 games by an average margin of victory of 26.1 points per game, 6 starters coming back on defense. And we know Kirby Smart coaches up just like Dan Lanning, right? His assistant coaches up the offensive and defensive lines. If they can run the football, they're going to win ball games as well. There is offensive balance. That crazy statistic that I throw out, since 2016, every time Georgia pounds the rock for over 200, they are an amazing 49-0 against FBS and FCS opponents. FBS victories, 45-0 by 30 points per game. They are going to be a difficult out. Best team in the SEC heading into 2024.
And oftentimes, Joe, over the span of the last 3 years, we started the defensive conversation first with Georgia. Carson Beck is back. He is the Heisman Trophy favorite, as we'll discuss in just a little bit here on CFT's Summer Special. He was a top 10 passer last year in college football. Keep an eye on that Bulldogs offense. However, the schedule for Georgia this year is not as easy as it was a year ago. They open up against Clemson. They're a 2-touchdown favorite. For the first time, or only the second time rather, since 2012, Georgia and Alabama will face off in the regular season. That is the end of September, week number 4 in Tuscaloosa. Texas and Ole Miss on the docket for the Bulldogs as well. Speaking of the Runnin' Rebs, it's a team you mentioned already, Joe, that you are high on. You couple them with your other favorite LSU SEC team in the Tigers. What can we expect both first out of Lane Kiffin and his Rebs and Brian Kelly and his Bayou Bengals?
Well, I think first with LSU, you look at Ole Miss, a dynamic offense. Jackson Dart spearheads that. He's a mobile quarterback, 20-plus touchdowns. He averaged well over 2 touchdowns, I believe, in the last 5 games of the regular season. They can run it. They get LSU transfer Logan Diggs that comes over. That defense, though, was the most impressive thing at the end of the regular season. They only allowed, from a passing perspective in the secondary, 229 passing yards per game, forced 13 interceptions. If they could take the next step in terms of progression, I think they're at least a 10-win football team. They are one of my teams to crack the college football playoff. For Brian Kelly and LSU, Nussmeier takes over. I like them as well, plus 125 to make the playoff. Again, physical in terms of the offensive line, but that defense, now with the adjustments that they have made and hopefully the resurgence of Harold Perkins, I think they're a 10-win football team as well.
Defense has to be better. LSU played 13 games last year. 12 of the 13 hit the over because of how poor the defense was. But everybody on the defensive staff is now gone and replaced. I thought it was family down there in Baton Rouge.
He puts money in my pocket. He's family.
Wait, for you it was. On the defensive side of the football, not so much. Garrett, Nussmeier remains. There are 7 teams with a minus money price to see the college football playoff in 2024. Ole Miss is one of them with a minus 125 number. We'll get to the newcomers in just a second. I would like to highlight a couple of other teams in the SEC. Missouri, also a win total of 9.5. Brady Cook is back. Luther Burden is back. This team is going to air it out this year under Eli Drinkwitz. I think they are going to be a pest for many in the SEC. Quarterback Nico of the Tennessee Volunteers. Nico Iamaleava is the quarterback now in Knoxville. Last year, more on the ground for Josh Heupel and the Vols. This year, I would expect the aerial attack to be back in Tennessee. Any other teams that catch your eye in the SEC?
Well, I think you got to keep an eye out at Texas A&M and Mike Elko. I want to see how they progress from an offensive perspective. We know how good of a defensive game planner he is. Starts week 1 against his former team, Notre Dame. So see how that plays out. Keep an eye out for A&M. Much more physical in year 1 with Elko.
8.5 the win total for the Aggies. How about their longtime rivals that are back as their conference foes? The Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners. We break them down up next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. You know, Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Watch out for USA and Canada in 4 years. Like cricket's going to be a sport that's growing.
I made my first cricket bet last week or over the weekend. I was getting a team that was leading like 150 to 5 plus odds. I'm like, I'm up 150 points and I'm getting plus odds. Where do I sign? I love this cricket stuff. What are you kidding me?
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Conference realignment is no longer a thing in the future for college football. It is here, and it might seem like it wasn't all that long ago, but just a few summers back, it was Texas and Oklahoma that really got this whole shindig underway. When it was announced that OU and Texas would be leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, it was unheard of. It was earth-shattering, and now it is a reality. The Sooners and the Longhorns, they take their rivalry and now join the Southeastern Conference. Joe, we have talked about it in the Big Ten. Oregon, a newcomer, second best price to win that conference crown. Texas, a newcomer to the SEC, second best price to win that conference championship. But last year, the Longhorns were a college football playoff team, reaching the Sugar Bowl and a CFP semi before getting beat by the Washington Huskies. Year 2 to year 3 for Steve Sarkisian was filled with so much improvement in Austin. What about year 4 and year 1 in the SEC?
Well, I think they could be up against it. That doesn't mean they're going to be a 7-win football team, but I think 9-3 is right in the area where I would pick the Texas Longhorns. I'm not picking them to win the SEC championship and certainly not the national championship. They lose defensive playmakers, especially in terms of the front seven. They lose their 2 big play wide receivers, Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell, and that's going to put pressure on. I know Isaiah Bond is there, but that defense played like an SEC caliber unit. They only allowed 82 rushing yards per game and 2.9 yards per rush, but that was against Big 12 opponents. Can they do it against SEC offensive lines? I need to see it. Again, I'm picking them 9-3. That doesn't mean it's not successful in year 1, but the expectation is through the roof in Austin. I can't buy it.
Through a $2 price for Texas right now, minus 230 to reach the college football playoff, 4th best number in the nation. Only Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon have better prices. And although it is an SEC schedule, it is not nearly as bad for Texas as it is for Oklahoma. The Red River rivalry will continue in Dallas the second weekend of October. But that's followed for the Longhorns by a trip back home to Austin in a game against Georgia. Outside of that, not all that bad, but the regular season finale should be fun. One of the longest standing rivalries in all of college football that has not been played since 2010 when these two teams left the Big 12, when A&M went to the SEC and Texas remained behind. The Lone Star State Showdown between the Aggies and the Longhorns is back. And if you paid attention to any of the baseball that just happened in the collegiate level, there's a lot of bad blood between these two rivals and fan bases. Still, the win total for Texas is up there, 10.5. Expected to be a double-digit win team. Expected to see the CFP once again. Things are a little bit more tempered in terms of the expectation in Norman for Oklahoma in its first year in the SEC, but a recent extension of Brent Venables will make him one of the highest-paid coaches in college football and keep him at the helm of this Sooners program for a very long time. 7.5. The win total for OU, not the double digits of their rival. That is Texas. What can we hope for out of OU this season?
I think they're a bowl team. Is that good? If Dylan Gabriel was the quarterback of the Sooners, I might have maybe an 8-win football team under their belt. Let's not forget Dylan Gabriel solely was responsible for handing Texas their only regular season loss last year in terms of the Red River rivalry. Now it's Jackson Arnold. Does show optimism. Did 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the bowl loss against Arizona, and Oklahoma got much more physical in terms of run support, only allowed 138 rushing yards per game, but again, they lose a lot in terms of the defensive starters, only 4 starters coming back. That is going to put pressure on Brett Venables defensively, and I don't think the offense is going to be that consistent or explosive as Quinn Ewers and the Texas Longhorns, so going under the 7.5 this year.
I think it's a wise under, and I don't bet a lot of offseason unders on a win total, and I believe in Jackson Arnold. Darnold. He is the future at the quarterback position for a program that has had a lot of success at the QB position the last decade. But here's the schedule, just in SEC play for Oklahoma. Home games against Tennessee and Alabama. They continue the Red River rivalry against Texas, who has the fourth best price to reach the college football playoff. And how about your road trips to learn how things work in the Southeastern Conference to Jordan-Hare against Auburn? And that's not that bad in comparison. A road trip to Oxford to take on Ole Miss, Columbia to take on Missouri, and they end the year in Death Valley and Baton Rouge to take on LSU. Oklahoma got the harder of the two schedules in a large way than in comparison to their conference foes then and now in Texas.
Oh, they absolutely did. And you bring up Missouri. I think Missouri has the longest home winning streak in all of FBS with 28 games. So it's not going to be easy for Oklahoma to just waltz in. And some of these other teams outside the big three, right? The LSUs, the Georgias, and the Alabamas, those other teams like Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, they have their eyes set on a 12-team playoff as well. So when Oklahoma comes into town, they're not going to take them for granted, especially playing in the SEC for the first season.
And again, it's not just conference realignment at the Big Two part of the Power Four leagues, which when you look at the Big Ten and the SEC, we had divisions in both of these conferences a season ago. Big Ten East and West, SEC East and West, with the two champs of both divisions meeting up in the conference championship game. Because of realignment, no longer, which you think would open the door on both sides. Ole Miss, Auburn, A&M, LSU saying, all right, hey, we don't have to beat Alabama just to get to Atlanta for an SEC championship game. Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, happy it's not the SEC East with Georgia at the top. If you had to pick two teams to play in the SEC title game in early December, I put you on the spot right now, my friend. Who are you looking at, or who do you think is the best wager to do so?
I think Georgia and LSU. I'm going to go. I think Georgia's definitely going to be there because of the veteran quarterback experience of Carson Beck and how Kirby Smart recruits from a defensive perspective. And LSU as well in year 3 with Brian Kelly. Now this is where you really see the recruiting angle for what BK has brought in terms of Baton Rouge. I don't think that defense can get any worse. I think Harold Perkins maybe will be back in terms of an edge rusher. Him and Greg Penn, the defensive specialist, I think could step up. Again, he's coached up quarterbacks over the past couple seasons, even though it was Jaden Daniels. I'm expecting a breakout from Nussmeier this year.
And it is rare in the transfer portal era to see a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, who has a very high prospect level, to stay in a place, learn behind Jaden Daniels, and then take over the starting role. Blake Baker, Missouri's former DC, goes in conference. He's now the new defensive coordinator with LSU. That side of the football needs to be better. Heisman Trophy odds up next.
One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv.
It's very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
I feel like when there's this wind at this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this was one of those days for me, so I relished in it. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So, I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
You can consider this summer school here on College Football Today to get you up to speed for 2024 college football's season. So consider this then your Heisman history class. In the 10-year history of the college football playoff featuring 4 teams, 8 of the 10 winners played the quarterback position. 7 of the 10 Heisman Trophy winners either won a conference championship game, played in the college football playoff, or reached the national title. Often team success in CFP correlates with individual success as well. So a 12-team era of a college football playoff with more teams staying in the national conversation deeper into November, into early December, Joe, in theory, should open up the Heisman Trophy race.
It will, and even for the group of 5 teams, I believe, as well. Last year with Liberty and Caden Salter, he might have been in the mix in regards to the Heisman Trophy because of the dynamic numbers that he put up, and maybe it will open up the door for a position this year. We saw Devontae Smith a few years ago, but it's been about 8 seasons since Derrick Henry hoisted the hardware in regards to the Heisman Trophy, and that's where I'm backing all running backs this year. I think the potential for teams to run the football, get back. We saw the transition in regards to more balanced attack in the NFL. I think that transition could hold true in college football this year. You look at some players that I'm high on, Donovan Edwards at 100-1, Ali Gordon 100-1. The list goes on and on. There's a number of different running backs that could hoist it this year.
And here's another Heisman history lesson for you as well. For the first time in now 3 seasons in college football, we don't have the returning Heisman winner back in the sport. Bryce Young won the award in 2021, was back playing college football in the 2022 campaign. Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy that year, striking the pose. He was back in CFB at USC a season ago. Jaden Daniels won it. He's now the quarterback of the Washington Commanders. So let's look at those Heisman Trophy prices for this 2024 season. Carson Beck, the quarterback for Georgia, is the favorite entering the year at plus 750, but still a relatively long number. $1.50 in front of Quinn Ewers, a 9-1 price on the signal caller for the Texas Longhorns. And Dylan Gabriel, after knocking off Texas in the Red River rivalry last year at Oklahoma, was in the Heisman Trophy conversation, Joe, but he's no longer in Norman. He's in Eugene as the quarterback of the Oregon Ducks. His price 10-1.
Again, when you look at that list right there, I mean, if I had to pick one, I would take a shot on Dylan Gabriel because of the versatility and how he stepped up in terms of big matchups, and people know Dylan Gabriel. It's not to take away from Quinn Ewers, it's just that I believe Dan Lanning and Oregon are a little bit more consistent from an offense and defensive perspective than the Longhorns entering 2024. But again, they have to produce and they have to win. That week 2 matchup, if Dylan Gabriel lights it up, he'll be right there with Carson Beck, so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely so. The stats are going to be there in a Dan Lanning and Will Stein offense in Oregon. We would expect the stats to be there for Carson Beck as well. Had the 5th most passing yards in college football a season ago. And again, the Georgia Bulldogs, not just a stout defense, they can be explosive offensively. Quinn Ewers, record numbers in the Big 12 title game for Texas. They are going to air it out across the yard. You mentioned Isaiah Bond, transferring from Alabama, now in Austin. Silas Bolden from Oregon State to Texas as well. The weapons and pieces in place for Quinn Ewers. If you were looking deeper down the board, where would you go? And it's okay if it's a running back.
Yeah, well, I mentioned the running backs. Quarterback-wise, Jackson Dart, to me, 15-1 and 16-1, depending upon the books that you shop. I think he has great value because we know Lane Kiffin wants to throw it. He wants to run it as well. They average well over 30 points per game, and they pounded Big Ten opponent Penn State in the bowl game. They're going to have their opportunities against top 25 competition. Keep an eye out for him. Again, I mentioned Ali Gordon. Quinshon Judkins comes over from Ole Miss, 1,000-yard rusher, well over 5 yards per carry. You implement Quinshon Judkins with Travion Henderson in Chip Kelly's offense, they could put up dynamic numbers, and if they knock off Michigan at the end of the regular season, it could be his to lose.
Look up the stats of Chip Kelly offenses inside Autzen Stadium at Oregon. They are dominant on the ground. Same story at UCLA. I expect huge numbers out of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Will Howard, the quarterback in Columbus, tied for that fourth best price. If I was looking for a sleeper a little bit more down the board, it would be K-State's quarterback, Avery Johnson, 25-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. A dynamic quarterback who appeared in 8 games last year during his true freshman season, 5 touchdown passes, 7 rushing touchdowns, and won the Pop-Tart Bowl MVP award. We have never not seen a Pop-Tart Bowl MVP award winner win the Heisman Trophy the very next year, because it's never happened before. But anyway, we'll keep forecasting the 2024 college football season as we roll on in our College Football Today Summer Special.